Hello guys, Sir Vertigo here. Today's video is a bit of a sensitive subject. Just discussing some of what we are going to go over is enough to get us both killed, so I need to impress upon you the need for secrecy. Today, we are discussing Norgaber. Norgorber is one of the Ascended Trio, a group of mortals who ascended to godhood through completion of the Starstone test. With Eridan being the original who set the Starstone in its current place, he is not included in this trinity. While he is a shadowy deity with a neutral evil alignment, he is not as evil as Lamashtu or Rovagug, because he focuses more on manipulation of others and not so much their destruction. He is truly an enigma even amongst the gods, who keeps his true motives known only to himself. Even his followers remain ignorant of his true plans and designs, with memories being modified for his own benefit. In artwork, Norgaber is often portrayed simply by his symbol, that of a black, featureless mask, often polished until it shines like a mirror. Other attempts to portray him result in active interference from the deity, with the artist being struck with hand cramps or tremors to prevent completion of their work. If they persist, the artist can be stuck with more permanent motor function damage or even blindness. Some artists evoke his presence with a black mask-like badge or even an empty black glove. The faithful have been known to nail a black glove to a door as a warning to someone who has offended the cult. With few, if any, true representations of himself surviving, he is already one of the most mysterious deities around. But he has also wiped his true appearance and past from the minds of the other deities and anyone on Galarian, becoming an enigma to every living and unliving being. Those who have seen him can only describe a nondescript hooded figure in black and gray, with the face lost in deep shadows or completely invisible. Of average height and average build, he is vaguely threatening even when speaking, with an oft pleasant voice. Mortals in his presence always have the impression that he's standing behind them, even when he is standing in full view of a crowd. In an unknown time before 1893, presumably before 1863, Norgaber was born in the port city of Vier, in the Nisroch Bay off the northern coast of Cheliax. I say before 1863 just because I view Norgaber at the youngest as a 30-year-old male, but truly we have no idea when he was born. We know that Norgaber was an assassin, traveling the world and killing anyone he had a contract on. At some point, he gained a rival in the form of a fellow assassin, who stole a kill from him, starting a rivalry that would last until the day he ascended to godhood. We will return to this unnamed assassin later on in this video. In 1893 AR, Norgaber passed the Starstone test and ascended to godhood. Knowledge of his life before this is frankly not worth my life to uncover. I've already lost a few lore keepers just gaining the bits of knowledge I've been able to gain so far. Plus, to be honest, we couldn't find any scraps of info that have survived from before this point in time. After ascending, Norgaber became the god of greed, secrets, poison, and murder. Unlike most deities, Norgaber is rarely worshipped in his entirety. Instead, his worship is divided between four aspects, with each aspect embodying a different domain he rules over, with these different aspects almost acting as four separate faiths entirely. We will dive into the different aspects much deeper later in this video, but here's a summary for discussion purposes. Blackfinger is the aspect of Norgaber that represents alchemy, poison, and experimentation for the sake of gaining knowledge alone. Father Skinsaw is the aspect that represents murder and is easily the most dangerous and extremist. The Grey Master represents greed and any activities that benefit at the expense of others, while the Reaper of Reputation represents the aspect that focuses on secret knowledge and manipulation through knowledge rather than bodily harm. That is not to say Norgaber has split personalities, but his worshippers split themselves into the aspects they view most important. In my own opinion, this prevents you from having a rambling murderer amongst your suave and secretive spies. By isolating the various aspects, it makes it much harder to get a true overview of what the cults are doing as a whole. Norgaber has made all attempts to remain neutral in dealing with all the other gods, less out of fear of them, but more out of wishes to be free of their interference. He has largely succeeded in his efforts, with only 6 gods viewing him with disdain and refusing to interact with him. While this may not sound particularly bad, it's hard to gain secrets from someone who refuses to interact with you. Father Skinsaw views Akachek, the god of assassins, as an ally, with some assassins or murderers saying prayers to the duo before they take another's life. Norgaber himself is generally welcoming of Girona and Savannah, the goddesses of hatred and extortion, and the goddesses of illusion, respectively. Abadar, the god of laws, views his thievery as a diversion to the laws that society rely on, and as an undermining of honest gained wealth. Caden Kalian, a fellow ascended deity, views him as a coward and a villain. Aristil, the god of the hunt, distrusts him due to the many lives his hand has ruined, directly or indirectly. Amadei, the last of the Ascended trio, believes he has evaded justice for too long and suspects his hand in the death of Aridin himself. Sarenrae, the sun goddess, has been burned too many times by him feigning remorse and redemption, only for it to be a ruse to further an evil plot. Get it? Burned. Torag, the dwarven deity, sees the activities he promotes as a cancer that can destroy even the most well-protected city from within. Nowadays, he spends much of his time in Dusk Fathom, the undercity that's located below the other planar city of Axis. He spends his time there plotting, whispering in the ears of mortals and twisting the luck of thieves, murderers, and spies Galarian-wide, but no one truly knows what goal he is guiding them to. Divination into Dusk Fathom from outside is impossible, as is teleportation in or out. There are portals within Dusk Fathom that lead to the upper layers of Hell, Abaddon, and the Abyss, and Denzians of these planes will use these portals to raid Upper Axis on occasion. When one of Norgaber's servants die, I believe they travel through the Boneyard and are delivered to Axis to join Norgaber in the Dusk Fathom. I've not truly found any proof of that, that's just my speculation. While undead in general are the work of Ergotha, shadows are often also associated with Norgaber. Indeed, some worshippers of Norgaber refer to shadows as emissaries of the Grey Master, or Blackfinger's Claws, and they believe that the god takes the shadows of the faithful after death and makes them his proxies in the mortal world. Some clerics of Norgaber know the secrets of summoning these shadows to safeguard their midnight places of meeting and worship. Worshippers of Norgaber are cultists by all standards of the Inner-Sea region, with open worship forbidden in almost every nation except Absalom, where it is tolerated at best. His followers naturally tend to be rogues, bards, and assassins, but he also has a surprisingly significant portion of his followers who are clerics. All of his followers wear masks to identify themselves, while also being a symbol of devotion, with some embracing multiple masks to signify different emotions. Followers will only remove these innermost masks in private, amongst the people they trust most. These masks are often elaborate with hinged jaws, colored lenses, and muted colors of various shades. Due to this dependence on masks and all of his followers having one, collectively the worship of Norgaber are known as Sons and Daughters of the Mask. Worshipping Norgaber follows many of the traditions of a thieves' guild, with a typical service being conducted by a masked senior priest. He will lead the guild in prayer, with other followers murmuring assent while sharpening blades or shaking coins in a cup. Holy services are rare in Norgaber worship, with much of his praise being more physical acts, such as thefts, murders, political manipulations, or any other act that might fall within his domain. Norgaber's influence is subtle, even in the most direct of his interventions. When pleased, a pickpocket may find a gold coin in an otherwise poor man's coin purse. A spy may learn a juicy bit of info from an unexpected source, or a weapon's poison may prove especially potent. However, when his anger is roused, his ire is carefully measured and dealt out at the appropriate time. A thief may find she's lost the jewel she was supposed to steal. A speaker may find themselves tongue-tied during an important speech, or a poisoned blade may nick the hands of even a master assassin. Norgaber is disinclined to kill his own followers, as long as they can still prove useful. Even if they may know too much, he prefers to punish them by a social humiliation, sickness, or a crippling injury. He is all too used to wiping the memories of followers who have failed him, and he has even been known to wipe the mind of his greatest followers, all in an effort to keep his master plan secret. Norgaber's edicts are simple, and any who wish to follow Norgaber should expect them. You must keep your true identity secret, even to your fellow worshippers. You must sacrifice anyone deemed necessary, and you must take every advantage in a fight. You must lurk from the shadows, and you must never operate in Norgaber's name in open. His anathema should be equally as obvious, with punishments coming to any who allow their true identity to be connected to your dark dealings. If you were caught in a raid and unmasked, not only would you face legal troubles, but Norgaber would not look favorably upon you for allowing yourself to be captured with mask. You must never share a secret freely, and showing mercy is a quick way to earn the god's ire. Each aspect has worshippers who worship Norgaber in a different way. For example, Blackfinger worshippers are typically assassins, alchemists, and herbalists. They worship this aspect that embraces alchemy, poisons, and experimentation. His followers breed poisonous animals such as spiders and scorpions. They use these animals to create more potent venoms, vivisect victims to learn the secrets of the flesh, and supply criminals with powerful poisons, paralytic agents, and memory-fogging drugs. They often wear masks of smoked glass to protect their eyes from the acidic substances they work with, and to signify their positions as alchemists amongst his other followers. Blackfinger also draws in a few druids and witches who serve him, not as a result of his four domains, but due to his patronage of all poisonous creatures. The Grey Master is revered by extortionists, street thugs, thieves, and all who benefit at the expense of others. His followers range from petty crooks to violent gangs and nearly legitimate organizations, and they use a hooded cowl or strips of cloth to cover the face below the eyes as a form of concealment. They promote any activity that benefits themselves, as long as it comes at someone else's expense, but mainly if it leaves them with their life. The Reaper of Reputation is worshipped by spies and politicians alike, and they consider him the key to keeping knowledge secret and manipulating their opponents. Followers of the Reaper range from benign manipulators of politics, whose social maneuvering benefits others as well as themselves, to groups such as the Anaphexia. The Anaphexia is a group centered in Ustalov who hoard esoteric knowledge and kill anyone who would possess these secrets. Worshippers will typically wear domino or masquerade-style masks, or black spirals that cover their mouths. Meanwhile, the Skin Saw cult is the most dangerous and most extreme of the cults. Father Skin Saw's faithful include mass murderers and bandits, who believe every murder is a prayer and will commit brutal killings in Norgaber's name. No matter who's died in these slaughters, they believe that these killings advance his plans. Members of this aspect of the cult wear masks of human skin, enchanted to allow them to detect their victims' vulnerable spots. Now, this is not directly an aspect, but there is a strange connection to the halfling god Thamir Gixx. Now, Thamir Gixx is the halfling god of greed, opportunity, and thievery, and was first mentioned in historical records shortly after Norgaber's accession, leading some to believe that Thamir was fueled by Norgaber's rise to a godhood, while others believe Thamir was already a god, who assisted Norgaber in the Starstone test, in return for the power to return to common knowledge. However, my researchers and I agree that it seems to be a stretch to believe that two separate gods of greed and thievery happened to come back into popular knowledge at the same time. I put forth the idea that Thamir Gixx is simply a fifth aspect of Norgaber, but for what purpose, I can't really say. Halflings are embarrassed to admit that some of their race worship Norgaber, even if it is those who have turned to crime, or those that have grown unhappy with the normal role in life. Enough of this race of ex-slaves exists that there are halfling-only cults, but they are viewed harshly amongst other halflings. Despite this, halflings that follow Norgaber often retain a loyalty to the communities, secretly aiding them using their darker talents. Most halflings will follow the Grey Master, with many of them being inquisitors. Others with a penchant for poison will follow Blackfingers. However, there are halflings that follow Father Skinsaw, but they are as rare as they are insane. Norgaber has 4 servants that he uses for various reasons, usually in assassinations or to send a murderous message. The Stabbing Beast is Norgaber's herald, a being that is the living will of Norgaber. It takes the form of a gigantic silver scorpion-like entity that can also shift into the form of a darkly armored humanoid with a large scorpion's tail. He is regularly sent to Golarion to aid his worshippers in hiding secrets or performing audacious thefts. The Stabbing Beast is Norgaber's herald, a being that is the living will of Norgaber. It takes the form of a gigantic silver scorpion-like entity that can also shift into the form of a darkly armored humanoid with a scorpion's tail. He is regularly sent to Golarion to aid his worshippers in hiding secrets or performing audacious thefts. The Stabbing Beast has been killed on a number of occasions, but Norgaber has always resurrected it after its deaths. He leaves its memories intact to avoid the mistakes that led to its previous incarnation's demise, leading to a progressively more dangerous individual. Spoiler for those of you out there who enjoy lore. This info has been retconned slightly. In all Pathfinder 1st edition books, the Stabbing Beast would be resurrected, have its memories wiped, and be led to have its own belief that it could only be killed by Norgaber himself. But now, as seen in the Agents of Edgewatch, the Stabbing Beast is a copy of the original, but with memories intact. Venom Fist is a large green water elemental, infused with poison, with the type varying according to its whims at the moment of summoning. The summoner may be able to convince it to use a particular toxin by offering it a sample of a deadly concoction, whether that be animal venom, potion, poison, mineral sample, or some alchemical creation. It particularly loves to drown creatures within its body, especially if the victim is naturally poisonous or has been paralyzed for this purpose. Yellowtooth is a werewolf rogue that has the power to transform into an entire swarm of rats. The Secret Shade is a unique fiendish shadow of the assassin that was once Norgaber's rival. The pair would attempt to one-up each other with every new kill, and they were evenly matched until the pair arrived in Absalom. When Norgaber emerged from the Starstone as the newest ascended deity, his rival greeted him at the bridge in congratulations. However, the Norgaber that emerged from that test now saw him as a threat. In the moments after becoming a deity, he saw this assassin as the last connection to his pre-deity self and post-deity self. So without a word, he murdered his rival. He kicked his corpse into the pits surrounding the Starstone Cathedral. He purged Golarion of all memory of his rival's existence, as well as his own existence, so that even other deities had no memory of them. He then ripped the shadow from his rival's corpse and forced it into the form of his first servant. With shattered scraps of his memory, the secret shade has an urge for validation that it never received in life. It has accumulated pieces of info about the past, both his and Norgaber's past, but has so far been unable to connect more than a few fragments. Outwardly, the temples of Norgaber are more akin to a thieves' guild than any kind of religious site. Their true nature is hidden, transformed during the night to be obvious to the most trusted of faithful. The most guarded temple of Norgaber lies in Vier, not because it is the most treasured, but because no one can discover that that's his birthplace. Blackfinger temples operate more like a merchant's guild, with a legitimate front that will sell exotic substances, only opening the temple to trusted followers in the night. As far as church history goes, we know Nethys, Norgaber, and Sarenrae were involved in the Oath Wars, a series of increasingly violent battles between worshippers of the three gods in northern West Garund in 2498 AR. This war lasted about 62 years and would have continued if the city of Azir had not created the laws of mortality, which barred all deity worship within the territory. With no clergy allowed, the religious war sputters to an end in 2560 AR. Clothing worn by worshippers is predominantly black, gray, and brown. Attracting attention to the church by standing out from local fashion is frowned upon, so clothing will follow current trends to allow easier blending in. Shrines are uncommon in this following. Any place with a large enough population will support a secret temple, but this leads to little need for another location that the public could discover. But the Skinsaw cult may bury remains in a public location, and will treat this area as a shrine, albeit with no obvious markings. Blackfinger followers may pick a spot in town as a dumping ground for alchemical leftovers, creating a blighted space of dead land where nothing grows. Or the Grey Masters may pick a place as a dead drop for stolen loot. Rituals change from temple to temple and from aspect to aspect. Skinsaw cults will abduct and murder rivals or innocents, while Blackfinger cults may ingest or design new and increasingly potent poisons. This was some of the hardest information to find, for rituals are easily the most guarded of Norgaber's worship. Worshippers favor spiders and snakes, anything that has poisons that can be milked and refined into useful poisons or paralytics. He also shows favor toward rats, crows, and jackdaws, or any other back alley lurking creatures. Norgaber has no known holy items, with the only thing remotely related to him being the Blade of the Willing Martyr and the Anaphexia robes. The Blade of the Willing Martyr is a +3 keen vicious dagger, with theories being that the dagger was held by Norgaber during his ascension to godhood, but there is no proof to this claim. It is a powerful weapon, however, with the unique ability to forge a link of souls between the wielder and a target. When one dies, the other dies, unless severed by a break enchantment or remove curse spell. Currently, the dagger is in possession of the Pathfinder Society, held deep beneath the Grand Lodge in Absalom. The Anaphexis robes appear as plain versions of Pharasman holy vestments, but with the added ability to telepathically speak to anyone else wearing Anaphexis robes or carrying a Norgaber unholy symbol within 100 feet. It also grants a +10 to disguise checks to appear as a simple Pharasman monk, and a +10 to sleight of hand checks to conceal weaponry. There are 17 short texts that are associated with Norgaber's faith, all with various codenames and various bindings, nothing ornate, to lend them a plain and banal air. Among the faithful, these collected texts can be known as the words behind the mask, although any two cults may have different ideas on how the chapters are organized, the specific wording of certain phrases, and which sections stand most important. Cults that allow bloodshed will celebrate Norgaber's accession in midwinter by snatching a random person from a busy street, bringing them to the local temple, and quietly murdering them with poison. They will then hide the body where it will never be found, leaving no trace of where the poor victim went. Cults that avoid killing might plant incriminating evidence on a target, drug a target and place them in a compromising position, or steal something valuable in such a way as to humiliate its owner. And with that, I believe I've covered everything we've discovered on Norgaber so far. I know it's not a ton of research, but I do have researchers in deep cover within a few of the cults across Galarian, so we could always find more information on him in time. But for now, I think that's... Shh! Did you hear that?